Okay, cool. Looks like we are there. Perfect. Huh. Okay. All right. No, don't want to share that. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So I'm just getting some bugs worked out here. And I hope this works on this for the group. But we'll see. If not, we'll fix that later. Okay. All right. So, my name is Gerald Jones. I manage investments for federal employees and their families. And I'm going to talk about a few things. There's a lot of things going on right now as far as new administration, DEI. Um, a lot of investments are coming here into the United States. A lot of people are kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what they should do, what they need to do, and how they really can take advantage of what's going on right now in the country. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the World Economic Forum that new president elect Donald Trump had, I believe, earlier today or yesterday, one of the two. I think it was yesterday. But I'm going to react to that and go through that. I'm also going to talk about value creation, or actually, it's actually called wealth creation. And I'm going to start with that. I'm going to start with wealth creation and what you need to do to create wealth here in the United States. And after that, I'm going to go through the World Economic Forum and go over some of the sections that Donald Trump was talking, and then I'm going to go back to the wealth creation section so we can apply, so we can use application. Because I believe once I go over this structure in this process, this is the process that I use. You'll have a better understanding on why you really need to focus on making sure you have all of your affairs together. I know there may be some things that may be happening to certain individuals that seem to be unfair, and I get that and I understand that. But if you mentally and emotionally do not figure out how you're going to move past that, you're going to miss a really good, possibly great opportunity. Okay? So, to begin with, let's see. So, follow up on the market. So I manage investments for federal employees, a few 401ks, because the federal employees that I do work with, I've been fortunate enough to be referred to some folks that work in the private sector. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because a lot of times when you are working, right, you either work for the federal government, state, local, or city government, or you work for the private sector, or you could be a business owner, entrepreneur. The business owners, entrepreneurs, I'm going to leave you guys out. So I'm specifically talking to employees. But a lot of times, you guys don't understand how you should be investing your TSP, 403B, your 401k, whichever plan that you have. So I manage a good amount of accounts, and so I watch the market just about every day. So I'm going to go through this with you right now, just to give you an idea of where we're at. And by the way, when I'm managing accounts, I really just go between two funds. I go between the S&P 500, which is the C fund for federal employees. Everyone that has a 401k has some sort of S&P 500. Okay, so I go between the C fund and the G fund. The G fund is for federal employees. Really, that's just cash. So what I do is when the market is high, like it is now, I usually will sell and put everyone into cash. And then when the market comes back down, I'll re-enter the market so we can go back and capture those gains. And so right now, this is where we're at. We are at all-time highs. Actually, we just hit all-time highs today. It looks like it, right? 610, 609. That is all time. So essentially, in order for us to get up to this section, we're going to need some sort of, something's going to have to happen in the news to push us up there, okay? When we get to all-time highs, a lot of times it's very difficult to surpass that, okay? I don't want to say difficult, but the market needs some sort of push to push it through. So right now, the allocation that I have for everyone is I have 50-50. So I have 50% going into the G fund or cash, and the other 50% going into the C fund, which is the S&P 500. So I'm going to break that down, make this very, very simple. Let's say you have $100,000 in your 401k. That means I have it split 50-50. $50,000 is sitting in cash. The other $50,000 is sitting in the S&P 500. Okay. The reason why is because what's most likely going to happen, and this is just my own thesis. This is my own thesis for how I'm looking at the market, is that we're going to go up. We're going to work our way on up, but we're going to get some sort of pullback to bring us back down. Okay. We're going to go up and we're going to get some sort of pullback to bring us back down. Then we should work our way on up. Why do I think that? Well, because when I look at the chart and I look at the history, I mean, that's what's going on, right? So that's what I'm waiting on. So right now I have 50-50, 50 cash, 50 in the C fund, S&P 500. Okay. Now, your contributions, I have 100% going towards the C fund. Okay. So what that means is you have a pie, you have $100,000 in your 401k. We have that's split 50-50. But then we have your contributions. Those are your contributions that are being deducted from your paycheck. So sometimes you're putting away $100, $500, $700, whatever it is for you. Those are your contributions. So I have your contributions going 100% towards that $50,000. Okay. When we go up and it's going to work its way back down, when it gets down to some sort of bottom point, probably around here, maybe around here. I could put a line here. Maybe when it comes back down to here. So boom, it's going to, come back down to here. This is a good area. But essentially, when it comes back down, going all in 100% into the C fund. Okay. I just need to catch it when it's coming down. Okay. That's what I'm thinking right now, unless we get some unexpected news. You never know what could happen. So, yeah, that's the market today. Right now, let's take a look, see what's going on. Bitcoin's at 105,000, Treasury 4.6, and the VIX is down. So these are all good. Those are all good signs. Fear and greed. So right now we're 50-50. So some people think half of the investors, half of the population that are investing, it's about neutral. Some people are scared. Some people think the market's going up. So we're in a neutral stage right now. Okay. That's where we're at. All right. So that's an update there. I'm going to start with this here. Okay. This right here is very, very, very important. Let's see here. This is what's called the value creation. My mentor explained this to me, and it's helped out a great deal. Once I go over this is going to help you. This should help give you a better understanding as far as what's going on and what the future of the U.S. is going to look like. Okay. So, and you can apply this to, I apply this to every company that I research. I have a stock portfolio of about 11 companies. And then outside of those 11 companies, there's about 90 companies that I still haven't gotten to. But every company that I review, I use this system here. And actually, this system here is what encouraged me to move out of downtown Long Beach and to move to Las Vegas by going over this. Once I saw this, I said, oh, you have to get out of an apartment right away. Okay. Very, very important to get out of an apartment. So how this works, let's walk through this. We're going to start from the right and we're going to make our way over to the left. Okay. Right to left. So how this works is on the right, you have your capital, you have your debt holders, and you have your equity. So what this means is, let's take a company, you can use any company, but let's take Meta. Let's just use Meta, okay? Since I was talking about that earlier this morning. Let's take Meta. In order for Meta to grow, they need money. Excuse me, very simple. They need money. They get money from shareholders. What that means is people like me and you, the public, when we take $100, $200, $10,000, $20,000, and we want to buy stock into Meta, that is capital. Okay. You also have people who will loan money to Meta. These are called bondholders. Okay. So what happens is that the company will take the capital that it has received in the form of bondholders, in the form of equity for the stockholders. That money then goes to the left to the assets column. Okay. The folks in the middle, that is your board of directors, your CEOs, CFOs, COOs, your C-suites. These are the people that are in charge of the money that's being received and how they're going to use that money as assets. Now, the asset side, this is your operations. This is your operations, okay? So your assets, what could assets be? Well, for starters, assets are employees. They are assets. If you work in the building, okay, say if you have to show up to work, like for example, one of the things that's going on in the news for federal employees is that they want everyone to return back to their offices, okay? They want everyone to return because those offices are assets. Those assets, which are here on the left, they need to produce a profit. Okay. So let me make sure I slow down here. So on the left side, we have our assets. You have your employees. You have your buildings. In this case, Meta, they're going to have data centers here. They're going to have employees running those data centers. These are your assets. So the board of directors, the CEOs, etc., they have to run the company so the company can get a profit. Okay. That profit at the bottom is what is called free cash flow. Free cash flow. Okay. We want a company to have free cash flow. Now, there are some companies that have a negative free cash flow, which means they're taking a loss every year. Okay. But companies like Meta, Nvidia, Apple, etc., they have free cash flow. This is also why you're seeing the federal government want to come in and cut spending. They want to force everybody to go back to work so they can encourage some people to retire. Okay, just think about this. If you're a federal employee and you're making 80, 90, 140, sometimes $170,000 a year, if they can encourage you to, if they can make a mandate, which they have, for you to go back to work and encourage you to retire, they would rather, instead of you paying $120,000 a year, they would rather just give you a pension at $30,000-$40,000 and just cut their costs so they can get more free cash flow. Okay. This is how every business is ran. This is how you should think about your own personal finances as well. Okay. Again, when I'm evaluating a company, this is the process that I go through. I run them right through the system. Okay. So we're using Meta assets. We want free cash flow. Now, when we get free cash flow, that cash flow can go into one of three places. It can go back into the business, number 4, used as assets. So that free cash flow can be reinvested back into the business so we can have more, so we can grow the business and have a larger profit, right? It can also go back, number 5, to pay off the bondholders. So for the bondholders, that money can go back to pay the bondholders back. And when they pay the bondholders back, they pay them back with a coupon attached to it. For my retirees, I have a bond portfolio that's at about $1.6, $1.7 million. I have my retirees investing in bonds. Okay. My retirees get anywhere between 5 as high as 8% back on their money. This is how I'm evaluating companies, looking at the free cash flow and which companies have a history, a track record of paying back their bondholders at a 5 to 6, 7, 8% coupon. Okay. So the money that the assets generates, it can go back into the business to build a larger profit. We can go back and we can pay back our bondholders. We can also go back and repurchase shares of stock, okay, or pay dividends back towards the stockholders. So some companies do all three. Some companies do one of the three. Some companies do two of the three. It's really up to the discretion of the board of directors and the CEOs. The reason why I'm going over this is because if they're getting rid of DEI, you really need to start to think about, where do you fit in all of this? Who are you? Are you an asset? Are you an employee? If you're an asset and you're an employee, you really need to think about, okay, how am I going to help my employer profit on the bottom line so you can be the person to make a difference? If you're a federal employee, you need to ask yourself the same thing. What they are doing is, for federal employees, for DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, they are placing an office for DOGE in each agency to make sure that that agency is being ran efficiently. So yeah, I get it, right? A lot of people are upset, they're disappointed. They're coming off of, working from home, telework, right? But do not get caught up in that trap of feeling guilty and feeling bad for yourself. If you can find a way to emotionally move past that and see what you can do to make a difference in your agency, make a difference in your employer, you're going to be one of the ones to stick around. Now, if you're not an employee, and you say, hey, you know what? How do I invest in something like this? I like my job. Maybe you work for Costco and DEI is not an issue there, right? But let's say, you have a job or you're doing something else and you want to invest passively, okay? You want to invest with a company that has a good track record of having a good cash flow, They're sending more money back to the shareholders to increase your net worth and increase the share value. Maybe you're a retiree and you want a good income to come in without drawing down on your principal. The important thing with bonds is that you can get a pretty good interest rate, anywhere between 5 to 8%, at least that's what I have going on, without drawing down on your principal, okay? Or maybe you want to be a C-suite. You want to be a CEO, COO, okay? Board of directors. I was telling a family member this a few years ago. I said, hey, look, and they reached out because they were asking me, they were like, they were explaining that they were asking me something in the sense of like, how do they move up? And I think they were applying to move up, something like that. But I was telling them, hey, you have to have a good understanding as far as how you're going to make that company money and how are you affecting the bottom line. That's really going to be the difference maker. So if you're going to be a CEO, COO, CFO, you're going to be here. You're going to be making the decisions on the capital that comes into the company and how that capital needs to be used as an asset to increase profits and have an increased cash flow. Okay. So that is the value creation. Okay. That's how you become wealthy here in the United States of America. I'm prefacing this because when I go into the World Economic Forum and you hear President Trump talk, I'm going to tie everything together. All right. So let's take a look, see.
Into your new mandate.
By the way, Economic Forum, it's an annual event in Davos, Switzerland. You're talking about the wealthiest, the power people, the folks that run the planet. This is an international event where all of the international leaders get together and they discuss how they're going to operate and do business internationally. Watch how Trump handles this.
Into your new mandate.
Let's get past this.
Is
of us. This has been a truly historic week in the United States. 3 days ago, I took the oath of office and we began the golden age of America. The recent presidential election was won by millions of votes, and all seven, every one of them, all seven swing states. It was a massive mandate from the American people like hasn't been seen in many years. And some of the political pundits, even some of my so-called enemies, said it was the most consequential election victory in 129 years. That's quite nice. What the world has witnessed in the past 72 hours is nothing less than a revolution of common sense. Our country will soon be stronger, wealthier, and more united than ever before, and the entire planet will be more peaceful and prosperous as a result of this incredible momentum and what we're doing and going to do. My administration is acting with unprecedented speed to fix the disasters we've inherited from a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy.
So let me pause right there. We racked up over $8 trillion in spending. If I go back to the wealth creation, when you look at running a company, okay, and that's how this is being approached. the United States is being ran as a company. If the United States are the assets and we're spending too much money, we do not have a positive cash flow. So one of the things that's being talked about right now is the spending and what we need to do to cut the spending down so the country can be profitable. Oh, it's going to start over. Damn. Okay. Hold on.
and policies related to revitalizing
Hold on. Sorry about that.
to hear your vision and me, your return to Davos. We look forward hearing further J. Trump.
From a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. Food prices and the price of almost every other thing known to mankind went through the roof. President Biden totally lost control of what was going on in our country, but in particular with our high inflation economy and at our border. Because of these ruinous policies, total government spending this year is $1.5 trillion higher than was projected to occur when I left office just 4 years ago. Likewise, the cost of servicing the debt is more than 230% higher than was projected in 2020. The inflation rate we are inheriting remains 50% higher than the historic target. It was the highest inflation probably in the history of our country. That's why from the moment I took office, I've taken rapid action to reverse each and every one of these radical left policies that created this calamity, in particular with immigration, crime, and inflation. On day one, I signed an executive order directing every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life.
What you're seeing here and what he's talking about, he's encouraging the other businesses internationally to come back and invest in the United States of America.
Imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Scam. Withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and it's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulatory costs on the average American household over the last 4 years. I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took, along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA.
He said a lot of important things. He said so many important things. So look, when you go back, and I'm going to circle back to the wealth creation, okay? I'm going to circle back there. But when you look at running a company, you look at running the United States is the asset. We have to become profitable because right now we're in the negative. Part of being profitable is reducing our spending. In 2023, our spending was at $4.7 trillion. $4.7 trillion. That's how much money the United States made. Oh, that's how much money they spent. Okay, that money comes from taxpayers. The spending as of 2024 is $6.75 trillion. So we have to get our spending down. How do we get our spending down? Few different ways. One way is tariffs, like what he's talking about. When you have other countries, when you get tariffs from other countries to pay a tariff to do business here in the United States when they're essentially based out of the country, but they're not affecting, they don't have any factories here, right? But they're just soliciting here in the United States. You have them pay tariffs to reduce how much we're spending, okay? And I know a lot of people are asking like, okay, well, if they tariff, they're just going to increase the prices. So I'll go a little bit further on that. So when we do have tariffs, because we have some tariffs coming up February 1st, tariffs are right around the corner. But what's going to happen is, and what is happening is, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you buy a bottle. Let's just say you buy something from the grocery store that costs $10. Bottle of wine, carton of eggs, whatever you want. It's just an example. Let's say it's coming from China, and there's a 25% tariff on China. And China says, okay, well, we normally would charge you $10. We're now going to charge you $12.50. No, excuse me. Yeah, because that's 25%. $12.50. And let's just say 35% increase. So $13.50. So you just went from paying $10 to $13.50. Okay, that's a 35% increase. So what's happening is that you now have American-made businesses that are coming in to say, hey, buy those eggs from me. It may not be $10. It may be $11, $12, but it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper than what you would pay from buying internationally. Now, if you still want to buy internationally, by all means, go for it. No big deal. But you're now supporting the businesses here in the U.S. Secondly, and this is keeping our fingers crossed, knock on wood, ideally, What's supposed to happen is that with these tariffs, we can reduce federal income taxes and or eliminate federal income taxes that we're paying here in the United States. That is why he's changed the name from the Internal Revenue Service, internal, right? Internally inside the United States, collecting money from people that are here in the United States, and making that name External Revenue Service, so collecting money from folks internationally. So that's the goal, is to get rid of federal income taxes. Nothing's been said on that actually being enforced yet, hopefully, but that's the goal. So replace tariffs. So instead of collecting money from people here in the United States, we collect it from overseas. And quite personally, even if there is a tariff, I'll take a tariff over paying federal taxes all day long. That's not even an option. Okay. So let's continue.
Already Americans economic, you can see this, I think, maybe even in your wonderful, wonderful room that you're all gathered together, so many of my friends, but Americans, the economic confidence is soaring like we haven't seen in many, many decades, maybe not at all. Upon my election, it was just announced that small business optimism skyrocketed by 41 points in a single month. That's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America. But I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down.
I didn't even catch that. So he's having international companies come in and do business here and invest. Remember when value creation, wealth creation, the equities, the equity side. Okay. Those are companies bringing in $1 trillion. SoftBank, $1 to $200 billion. Other businesses, billions of dollars. That is equity that then goes over to the asset to generate a profit. Okay. That's how all of this is shaping out. Okay.
Which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent for what's.
All right, so I'm going to fast forward here.
It had to get approval on something that would have made it even better.
Welcome to our village next year. We hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
So we also know, Mr. President, that you open up for interaction here. We have a great panel with some of the most distinguished business people in the world. Let me start with someone that you know really well, that I think is almost a neighbor of you in in Florida, Mr. Steve Schwarzman, Chairman.
Pay attention to how he speaks to other international business leaders around the world. Pay attention to how he commands leadership and presence. Watch.
and CEO and co-founder of Blackstone Group. So, Steve, floor is yours.
Well, Mr. President, I'm sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia will be really glad you gave this speech today. You've had the busiest 4 days that anybody can imagine, and congratulations for that. My question is about some of the things I've observed here at Davos. It's a terrific forum. I've met lots of people, as usual. I think I've been here 30 years. And a lot of the European business people have expressed enormous frustration with the regulatory regime in the EU, and they attribute slower growth rates here because of the numerous factors, but especially because of regulations. And you've taken a completely different approach in this area. And if you could explain the theory of what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and what you expect the outcome to be, I'd appreciate it.
You know what this is? This is a sales pitch. This is a sales pitch. So that's another international leader. I forget his name. He just said that when he's investing here in the United States, the regulations slow up the process. Translation, it slows them up from being profitable, which means they have to do business somewhere else, which means maybe they have to cut employees, which means all sorts of things, right? So in order to get more opportunity here into the United States, let's hear his response.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations, Steve. You're a friend of mine, but on a great career. You have had an amazing career, and it continues. I just want to congratulate you. Very inspirational to a lot of people. I want to talk about the EU, because you mentioned specifically that I've also had a lot of friends and leaders of countries. I've gotten to know them all my first term and a little bit during this period of 4 years, and know them well, like them a lot. But they're very frustrated because of the time everything seems to take to get approved, environmental impact statements for things that you shouldn't even have to do that, and many, many other ways that it takes. And I'm going to give you a quick little example. In the private life, my beautiful private life, before I had all these things happening, the world is a little different. I had a nice, simple life. You knew that. But when I had that simple life, I did projects, and I had a big project in Ireland, and it had to get approval on something that would have made it even better. And I got the approval from Ireland in a period of a week. And it was a very, very, very efficient, good approval. And they informed me, though, the problem is you're going to have to get it from the EU, and we think that'll take 5 to 6 years. And I said, you have to be kidding. And this was before politics. And I said, wait a minute, it's not that important. I don't want to go 5 or 6 years, but it would have been a big investment. It would have been nice, and it would have been good for the project. And I sent the people to the EU to see if they could speed it up. And basically it was a 5 or 6 year wait just to get a simple approval that Ireland gave me in a period of literally not much more than a week. And I realized right then, that was the first time I really was involved with the EU, but I realized right then that's a problem, and I didn't even bother applying to do it. Or if I did, I pulled it very quickly. I have to be very accurate because I don't want to be criticized. He did apply, actually. No, I want to be very accurate. So I don't think I did, but if I did, I pulled it very quickly. It was just something you couldn't wait 5 years or 6 years to get an approval. So a lot of in a very big business sense, a lot of people are claiming that's the problem. From the standpoint of America, the EU treats us very, very unfairly, very badly. They have a large tax that we know about, and a VAT tax, and it's a very substantial one. They don't take essentially don't take our farm products, and they don't take our cars, yet they send cars to us by the millions. They put tariffs on things that we want to do. Like, for instance, I think they actually, in terms of, these are non-economic or non-monetary tariffs, and those are very bad, and they make it very difficult to bring products into Europe, and yet they expect to be selling, and they do sell their products in the United States. So we have, hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits with the EU, and nobody's happy with it, and we're going to do something about it, but nobody's happy with it. So I think the EU has to speed up their process. Friends of mine that are in some of the nations within the EU, great people, they want to be able to compete better, and you can't compete when you can't go through the approval process fast. There's no reason why it can't go faster. So, I'm trying to be constructive because I love Europe. I love the countries of Europe, but the process is a very cumbersome one. And they do treat the United States of America very, very unfairly with the VAT taxes and all of the other taxes they impose. One other, just to finish up, I got a call from the head of a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world, and he said, "Sir, could you help us? What? Landing in Europe is brutal. They charge us fees for everything, and it's so unfair." I said, "How does it compare to China?" He said, it's much worse. And the other thing, as you know, they took court cases with Apple, and they supposedly won a case that most people didn't think was much of a case. They won 15 or 16 billion from Apple. They won billions from Google. I think they're after Facebook for billions and billions. These are American companies, whether you like them or not. They're American companies, and they shouldn't be doing that. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a form of taxation. So we have some very big complaints with the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We'll now go to one of your friends in the EU, Patrick Pouyanné. He's the chairman and CEO of Total Energies. I guess you have a question ready, Patrick, for the president.
Mr. President, as we understand, energy is at the top of your agenda, and it's an honor for me to represent the energy industry tonight in this panel. Total Energies is indeed the fourth largest oil and gas and electricity company in the world. I will not ask you a question about the oil price. It's quite clear what you expect from us. I will go to gas more. And our company is the largest #1 exporter LNG from the US company. We are a strong contributor to, and we invest in a mammoth LNG projects in Texas, $20 billion. It's far from 200, but it's $20 billion. And we contribute with that to security of supply to Europe, as we export this LNG to Europe. Some experts fear that if there are too many projects developed in the US on LNG, this could have an inflationary impact on the US domestic gas price. And they recommend a pause on these projects. I would ask you the following question: what are your views about such a pause on investments on LNG in the US? What would happen if you would observe an increased domestic gas price because of these exports? And final question, which is important for Europe: would you agree to guarantee security of supply of US LNG to Europe?
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. Okay, and I'm going to pull this back up. Now, this here, okay, capital. What's going on is he is getting capital into the United States. Like you mentioned, you have SoftBank. They're bringing in billions of dollars of equity or capital. Okay, that money's going here as an asset, and they're going to begin building out their company, which is essentially AI in that case. And the gentleman that was just speaking, like he mentioned, they invest $20 billion in Texas for their gas facilities. That is capital. That money goes to build out the asset. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because right now there's a ton of opportunity right here before us. There is money pouring into the U.S. left and right. He already has $1 trillion from a Saudi Arabian king or so, plus billions of billions, etc. Okay, as well as reducing the taxes for corporations and family members as well. Okay, so the question is, and this is what I'm asking you, is that where are you going to fit in all of this? Okay. I don't want you to get so caught up into DEI and having to go back to work and things like that. Yes, they're getting rid of DEI, or they've gotten rid of it, or a lot of companies are getting rid of it. Some companies like Costco, they're keeping it, right? But things are moving towards a merit system where you're going to have skill sets in order to work for a lot of these companies. Even your degrees really isn't going to matter as much. It's going to matter some, but not nearly as much. Okay. So where are you going to fit in? Ideally, if you can move past how you feel emotionally about some of the things that's going on and start to wrap your mind around being a part of the wealth creation that's going on in America, you'll be much, much, much richer. You'll be much, much more wealthier than wherever you are at today. Okay. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know. California. Trump is going to be in California today or tomorrow. Then he's coming here to Vegas. I hope I'm back. I hope I'm back in time to see him, because I know once he comes to Vegas, he's staying here. So that's going to be great. But I'm not sure if I'll make it back. So, all right. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.